Resmaa, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, sis. It's
Thrilled to
good to
be
be
here
with you.
today with you. We have so much to share. Right before we dive in, I'm just going to light a candle for all of us to open the space for us, for our ancestors, all of our bloodlines to be welcome, and for Spirit to guide us today. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that's what makes it good.
Hmm.
I want to refresh our intention before we dive today. In this series, we want these conversations to be an inquiry into our own bloodlines and what our ancestors bequeathed to us, their resilience, their resources, and also all the ways that trauma passed down through them into us. Last week, we touched upon the common residues of trauma that are cross cultural for all of us, this dissociation, hyper arousal, shame, the inadvertent tendency to repeat again and again the injuries that we suffered from. We do this on ourselves and on others. Today, we open with the understanding that whatever our bloodlines are, wherever we came from, we are all descendants of people who survived. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And we're descendants of people who feared and who fled and
Hmm.
who oppressed
Hmm.
others and who were oppressed,
Hmm.
whether we're the descendants of indigenous peoples or immigrants or colonizers or slaves or perpetrators, all of us, every one of us, has inherited the residue of our ancestors' burdens. It's inside of us. And most importantly, and I think why this is so salient today in this moment is that residue, our trauma residue, is showing up so loud in the world right now. It's showing up in the schisms and the hatred and the fear, because it's etched into these bodies of ours, into these nervous systems. And it begs for us to resolve it and to metabolize it so that we can free ourselves and free our children of these burdens. So, to change our societies, we need to go into this deepest wiring in ourselves to access what it is that we're made of. And so that's why in this series, which we called Breath of the Ancestors, in this series, we're sharing ways to go into our bodies to access our trauma legacies, both the resilience of our ancestors and their wisdom, and also their wounds. And today, once again, we're going to give you, and especially Resmaa, I'm so excited to learn with you, to study with you,
Hmm.
your somatic practices and probes,
Hmm.
to understand what we're made of. And here we are. Here we are.
Hey, here we are.
We are. You are a black man,
Hmm.
and I am a Jewish woman
Yep.
in white skin.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I say that because it's distinct from Jews of color who have a
Hmm.
very different experience than European Jews, than
Hmm.
Ashkenazi Jews.
Hmm. Hmm.
Your people have endured, God knows, centuries of oppression and persecution and trauma to this very day.
Hmm.
My people have endured centuries of persecution and trauma historically,
Hmm.
and we both know this very intimately. But I guess I want to say before I turn this over to you, for decades in this country, many of my people, I'll speak for myself, I've been living under the illusion that because I am housed in this white body, I am safe.
Hmm. Hmm.
And everything has begun to crumble, has begun to change. And I think I'm not the only one. For many Jews in this country, this magical thinking has shattered.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Uh, I think for me, it started shattering shockingly in 2017, watching an army of
Hmm.
torch-bearing neo-Nazis
Hmm.
marching through Charlottesville.
Hmm.
It continued to break and shatter and shock me
Mm-hmm.
and all of us
Mm-hmm.
in 2018 when
Mm-hmm.
there was a massacre of my people in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
And all through 2019 and 2020, more and more hatred breaking to the surface in Jersey City and San Diego, Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think we began to taste the unsafety that you live with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Your people live with all the time
Mm-hmm.
in a world where what we call white body supremacy
Mm-hmm.
is the standard in the land.
Mm-hmm.
Is the
Mm-hmm.
it's the assumed
Mm-hmm.
standard.
Right.
It's what is. It's what is.
Mm-hmm.
This tacit kind of agreement that we all
Mm-hmm.
have. So let me ask you. I just want to say all of that and say, how are you doing in this moment in history, with the seeming end of an incredibly hate-filled 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
with COVID raging? Where are
Mm-hmm.
you sitting? Where are you sitting?
First off, I just want to say thank you all for allowing me to come and spend some time with you. I want to acknowledge that my feet are on unceded indigenous land, and something happened and continues to happen to indigenous people all across the world, and so I always want to acknowledge that. Um, and I want to acknowledge Sister Diane Jackson. It's good to see your face, sis. I also want to say that we're it's funny because me and you've been talking back and forth. We're developing a relationship with each other, and we've been kind of vibing and asking each other questions and going and kind of digging down deep into this thing. And one of the things that's been happening for me, but besides dealing with kind of like this global kind of geopathic grief, um, this weight. Everybody is experiencing this kind of weightedness now, right? It's like all of the things that we used to do, all of the yoga we used to do don't quite work the way that it used to. All of the all of the zenning we used to do don't quite work the way that it used to do. All right. It's just like it's not assuaging this kind of energy, this charge, right? And that's because many times we keep trying to handle individual grief, individual weight, individual geopathic energy. We keep trying to work with it individually when in actuality, what has happened to us communally.
Mm,
And so the weight is in that the strategy that you're employing is actually inadequate to deal with the level of weight that is now. We are creation. Human beings are part of creation. So when something happens to creation, um, we experience it too, unless we've developed ways to settle it down and dissociate,
mm,
right?
right,
But sometimes when the energy gets to be too much in the larger global field, in the larger fractal, what happens is that because we have not developed an embodied language, when that stuff starts popping, we don't know what to do, right?
right.
Right. So the only cure is a good glass of wine, right? Or going to Amazon and over shopping or some shit like that. And then we find that don't work either because we haven't developed really embodied cultural, living embodied anti-racist practices and cultures to begin to deal with this different type of stuff. We have strategy, we have individual understanding. So one of the things that in your question, Tirzah, that I think is really interesting is this idea of a the what Jewish people in white bodies are experiencing, have been experiencing um, over the last 4 years. And what I would say to you is that experience, that kind of cracking of the safety glass, that experience to me. So when people say to me, wow, this is happening over the last 4 years. The thing that happens in my body is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Right.
like, like
Right.
the last 4 years.
400.
Yeah. And even more recently, like, yes, yes, we have this president that is going to have to be removed from office because he's not going to go, right? This is what you're watching is somebody who is despotic, right? And so you may end him, but you're not going to end Trumpism. 71 million people voted for putting babies in cages. Just hold that for a minute. 71 people voted for disparaging veterans. 71 million people voted for Jews will not replace us. $71 million people voted for groping women's genitals. Before Trump came in, there was a concerted effort to block any progress with regard to women's rights in the Senate, with regard to judges, with regard to, I mean, this is not new with Trump. Trump is the personification of white body supremacy. Take him out and put the word white body supremacy in, and you got the same operational pieces. And so for me, this idea of shock that many white bodies experience right now is something that is going to have to be corralled, and there's going to have to be a culture created. So the practices that need to occur, so we actually transform, right, can begin to happen. Not strategy, not putting Black Lives Matter signs on your yard, not being online and making sure that those bad white people find out that you're not going to take it anymore, right? None of that. This is going to involve actual culture building. I'm talking structurally. I'm talking philosophically. I'm not talking intrinsically. I'm not talking innately. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about structurally. There's a particular point in time where the white body was rendered human and everything else was a deviation from the standard of humanness. That's what's in your gut when we start to begin to talk about race. That's the charge. That's why most white people don't want to talk about race specifically. We love one, we keep one that we love doing the intersectionality piece in order to take some of the heat, some of the charge, some of the speed out of race. But when you start to focus specifically on race, that charge starts to show up, which is why you need to build a container.